Let's go to General David Petraeus, the former CIA director. You know him well as the retired U.S. Army general, KKR partner, Global Institute chairman. General, very good to have you. What do you think happened here? Do you think that Navalny was murdered?
I do. I think that's the general, very broad consensus. Really quite stunning, but in some ways, he lived longer than I think many of us actually thought he would. Of course, he barely survived the effort to poison him before. I remember he would receive treatment in Germany, recovered, and the courageous anti-Putin, anti-corruption, anti-Russian Federation, as it has turned out to be, crusader that he was, he went back to Russia, knowing that he would be arrested on arrival. He was. He's endured incredible hardship, essentially penal colonies, often in solitary confinement, and really somewhat amazing that he was allowed to live as long as he has, given how effective he was in exposing the corruption, the lavish $1.3 billion palace that Putin had built for himself in the Black Sea and so forth. Been a major thorn in Putin's side, the most effective and clearly the most courageous of his political opponents. And now he is no more. And also, by the way, in the latest election that's going to be held, the one individual who is starting to get a bit of traction in opposing Putin has been declared ineligible to run for office. So anyone who had any remaining illusions about the Russian Federation and its similarity to a mafia state, I hope no longer has those.
General, we know President Biden is convinced, as you are, that Vladimir Putin was behind this. He didn't link him to an outright assassination, but that he was behind this. I'm not sure semantically, sir, the difference. We do know that President Trump, former President Trump, has not been very critical of Vladimir Putin. In fact, he admires him on his tough stance and what a brilliant leader he is compared to a wanting NATO. What did you make of that?
Well, look, my assessment is that he is, again, an incredibly brutal, murderous kleptocrat who has any number of individuals' blood on his hands. These things don't happen without him. Remember what he did to Prigozhin as well, and what he has done to his neighboring country, whose very existence he denies is allowed. He cannot tolerate a successful, thriving, prosperous democracy and free market economy, however flawed Ukraine's democracy may be. He couldn't tolerate that on his border. And so he invaded in a brutal and unprovoked manner. So again, by the way, he won't stop there. And so I hope that, you know, the scales have fallen from the eyes of anyone who still has any misconceptions about Putin. This reveals this once again. And of course, the timing of this is very, very suspicious. We're right at the Munich Security Conference. It was announced, a buzz, literally a gasp went up in the hall when the word spread. Navalny's wife actually then took the stage after Vice President Harris made a very powerful statement noting that she was undecided whether to go to her children immediately or to go on stage, and she decided that he would have gone on stage, and so that's what she did as well. But again,
but what does that tell you in and of itself, General? What does that tell you? That he chose, if Vladimir Putin were behind this time to do it? Wouldn't he invite a lot more controversy and wrath doing this now when you could have just, you know, had Navalny stewing in a Siberian jail cell? So why now? Why upset the apple cart now?
I think literally to inject, again, controversy into this session that is here, if you will, again, to be in the conversation on everyone's mind. Again, I think it could colossally backfire. I hope that those in Washington who are still debating whether to provide to approve the $600 billion in assistance to Ukraine and also assistance for Israel and for Taiwan will now expedite the process of completing that. But one of the real takeaways here is that Ukraine is in a difficult situation, even though the EU has just stepped up. For all of our criticism, and I was a 1-star, 3-star, 4-star NATO commander, dual-hatted in a U.S. position, and we were always frustrated with the lack of sufficient defense spending. Well, 18 of the 31 NATO countries this year are now projected by the NATO Secretary General to meet the 2% of GDP. The Chancellor of Germany committed to that this morning on stage as well. And the EU as a body just approved $54 billion equivalent in further assistance for Ukraine, having already given $2 for every US dollar that has been provided so far. And we've just seen Ukraine have to make a tactical withdrawal from a position that became increasingly exposed, in part because they do not have sufficient ammunition for their artillery, and also grave concern about the number of interceptors they have for their anti-air and ballistic missile defense systems. Those uniquely come in industrial strength, at least, from the United States. So I hope that this will, again, clarify this situation for anyone who's still undecided, and that we'll see expeditious approval of that assistance package that has been approved by the Senate, that has bipartisan support in the House, but may or may not get to a vote. It has to get to a vote.
That is not a given, General, to your conclusion there. General David Petraeus, very good seeing you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good to be with you, Neil. Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.